Today's Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020, and you know what time it is.
You're tuned in to the Elevator Radio Show, a weekly program dedicated to covering news and information on elevators, escalators, and moving walkways. Produced in the wee hours of the morning, a new show is uploaded every Wednesday, sometimes even before you get out of bed. Listen to some of the comments sent in from our audience.
Rob from New York writes, Tom, are you f***ing insane? You actually get up at 2 a.m. each Wednesday to put this show out? Man, you must love elevators. Tim from Illinois writes, I'm not sure why I listened, but ever since I tuned into the first show back in 2007, I've been addicted. Matt in Texas writes, I like your safety messages, Tom. It's important to remember them each and every day. And he also adds,
when am I going to win the monthly prize pack giveaway?
Ron from California sent this in. Despite your inability to pronounce words in the English language, I tune in each week and am glad that you offer this service to the industry. It's better than Google News alerts. Sarah from Washington writes, love the show, Tom, and look forward to it each week. I'm glad I signed up for the newsletter. You provide a valuable resource for the industry, not only for North America, but worldwide.
Enjoy the show. And now, here's your sleep-deprived host, Tom Seibert.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. It is good to be here this Wednesday, April 22nd, where we are doing yet another show. And first and foremost, I need to reach out to all of you who have wished my mom well wishes in terms of, getting better. I just greatly appreciate being able to share with you, just get this off my chest and just share, kind of the experiences that I'm going through on a family level and just work, whatever. And I'm sure everybody's going through the same thing, if not worse, if not more difficult. And I'm a firm believer that no matter how bad you think your life or your situation may be, I don't want to say life because that's way too big of a thing to state or make an assumption, but no matter how difficult your situation or you feel your situation is, if you take a step back, and I'm talking about a mile step back, maybe 2 miles, and you really look at your life, you will find that you are a pretty lucky person. If you got family who love you, who surround you, who are with you, that is huge in my opinion. And so much of the time, many of us, even myself, get caught and snagged in the weeds when we aren't able to see like the whole picture. So no matter how hard or how difficult you might find your situation to be, and it's bound to be maybe even more difficult, take a step back and realize that your problems are your problems, your issues are your issues, and as helpless as we all feel, we all have a say. We all have the ability to make choices that help us not feel as helpless in those situations. So thank you again for allowing me this platform to share that with you and also share just everything because it seems like every day I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I feel helpless. And, at the end of the day, there are many people out there that are in more difficult situations. Not that anybody should compare their life with somebody else's or their situation, but the reality is that everything has to be put in perspective. So anyway, as I mentioned last week on the show, some of the issues we had with my mom requiring medical attention. She was released Tuesday morning. I did share that. I kind of forgot where we were at and what I had shared on Wednesday. Unfortunately, she had come home, and my wonderful wife was able to care for her at my parents' house, and my dad did as well. It was very sweet and just loving and awesome. And unfortunately, by the time Wednesday afternoon rolled around, we just knew we were not getting enough liquids in her. She was not getting enough liquids to where she was doing well. So called the doctor. Doctor said, you got two choices. It's either you stay home and try to get her to hydrate more, or you can take her to the hospital, take her to the ER. So, basically, again, it's a terrible feeling to have to make that decision when you realize that you may not see that person again, or because of the COVID-19 restrictions on visiting in the hospital. But I just felt like she definitely needed more care than we were able to give her. And after the loving, caring, attention that my wife spent in caring for my mom, which was just to me, just so what's the word? I don't know what the word is. It's just words can't describe just seeing that and seeing that kind of compassion, and it's just was awesome. Anyway, so Thursday afternoon rolled around or early evening, and just made a decision. We're going to take her to the hospital again, and went to a different hospital this time up north. Was not really pleased with the first hospital who had let her out, basically without discharge papers, stuff like that. Immediately took, went to the ER. And the experience of going to the hospital during these times is not a good one, unfortunately. And this is what I learned. Don't go to the hospital if you don't have to. And unfortunately, it's going to keep many people from going to the hospital because of the scare and everything, because they are terrified. And it's really unfortunate. So we get to the ER, okay? We were able to get her in a wheelchair, load her up. She goes into this vestibule, where it's kind of like an entrance where the doors open and close. There's a nurse there. Basically, only one person can go in the vestibule before you enter the building. So she's, her temperature's taken. She's asked a bunch of questions, have you been to China? Or you have all these symptoms, whatever. She says no, okay? And then I gets a mask and goes to admitting, and then I park the car, go back in. Anyway, long and short of this thing is that I was able to stay with her. She got an IV, which is great. Her potassium and her sodium levels were really low, and the IV made a huge difference right away. She was extremely dehydrated, but she was going to be admitted. So she was admitted on Thursday night late. Then Friday, there were some issues with her, how she was feeling, her condition, and then basically admitted to ICU for the fear that she might have had a stroke. And, all this is going on where when you take a step back, it's like, man, there's not a whole lot you can do. And the frustration in trying to coordinate or advocate for a loved one over the phone is just, if not more frustrating. It's definitely more frustrating. I can't put that in the same level as, trying to get support on your computer when you're talking to somebody who's named Bob in India or another country, which is fine because Bob is sharp and smart and tells you to unplug the computer. But I felt as if I spent more time trying to communicate to nurses who were caring for her in ICU that she was not normally how she was in the hospital. Like, she was confused, and it was very frustrating because it was almost like I was trying to convince them, like, what do you need me to tell you or share with you that'll convince you that this is not the person that lives at home? So, yeah, it's just been a very frustrating situation because the hospital's policy is that there are no visitors whatsoever to anybody who's in the hospital at all. So, just very difficult. Good news is she's out of ICU. She's doing better. She's definitely ingesting more liquids. She's still on IV. She needs to get her strength back, and then we get her home. So, hospital does not recommend getting her to a rehab facility. We're going to take care of her when she gets home. We're going to get her whatever she needs to take care of her inside a home at home. None of that stuff. And it's really frightening when you have a hospital saying do not take her to. We do not recommend taking her to a rehab facility because of all the the stuff that's going on out there. And I have to be honest with you. I do not think that there are facilities out there that have enough disinfectant, that have enough, personal protective equipment and stuff like that, especially in these retirement communities, these nursing homes, and that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. But what I found interesting was I was able to talk to some nurses, able to talk to doctors that were in the ER, and I asked them, I'm like, hey, how many, are you guys filled? Do you guys have, COVID patients? And he said, no. He said, we're not filled. We don't have COVID patients. Any COVID, anybody who comes in that might have COVID are sent to a different hospital that's 5-6 miles away, which is not exactly a far distance, but not easy to get to. So they're stopped at the door. So when you think about it, the steps that are being taken, which are huge. Doctor was frustrated because he said that we are burning. He said that they're burning. Their ER staff is burning through PPEs, masks, gowns, everything. So quickly. I mean, the guy had a different gown on when he came into the room 4 or 5 times, which, in all honesty, it's nice that kind of attention is being taken, but is that really necessary? Apparently it is. trust me, hospitals are not a place you want to be, especially, when there's people that are sick and things are going, flying around and all that good stuff. So long and short of it is that, trying to care for somebody or advocate for them over the phone when you're unable to go see them is really frustrating. And I do not understand how steps could not be taken to allow at least one visitor in to be with a patient when our governor is letting out murderers and molesters, child molesters, from prison. So, there's there's stuff that just boggles my mind, and it just frustrates the crud out of me. Because there was a time, I think yesterday or the day before, I was totally ready to just walk through the doors and go see her. You can arrest me if you want. Shoot me with a stun gun, I'll go in with a mask. I'll go in with a full body suit. I'll do all that fun stuff, whatever. But it just seems like common sense here is not what's being applied. And I feel like we as a country, we as people, because of the internet, have literally lost that. We've lost the ability to think for ourselves. We lost the ability to, when we have to write into some kind of blogger who asking if the elevator's safe to use, why are we relying on some blogger who writes a column called Goats and Cheese, whether it's safe to do this or that? Why can't we just figure out that, hey, listen, you know what? Commonly touched items, elevator buttons, escalator handrails, your steering wheel, change from a change machine, doorknobs, whatever, probably have germs on them. Might not be COVID, but it could be something else. Do we need to write somebody to find out if it's okay to ride an elevator with somebody else? And I just don't know how much worse it's going to get, because the way that news is being shared now, it seems like they're all using the same engine. That when you find an article, you see all these little bits and pieces about, hey, look what these stars look like 10 years ago compared to today. They look great, and then you got to click on that and get pulled in all these ads and stuff like that. I don't click on that stuff, by the way. And but it's just crazy. I mean, I just have little faith. And then I don't know. I'm trying to be more positive. I got home last night, and I realized that at dinner, which is my favorite time of day, we always eat together whenever we can, and that's always been the way we've been. I grew up that way. Family was family. It might be 10, 15 minutes, but we always ate dinner together. And my wonderful wife, Tiffany, would, she makes awesome food, and it's just a great time to just catch up with everybody. But I realized the last few nights, or maybe longer than that, I get home, and I feel like I rant. And I just know I need to stop that. And I share my frustration, and I never want my children to know or think that they can't have their own opinion about things, or share them with me or disagree with me at the same time. So that's really important to me. So I'm going to do my best to try to keep some of that at bay. And maybe you could do the same thing as well, and try not to get sucked into the trap of the Facebook trolls out there and commenting, because I got sucked into that this week, and I just, it honestly felt good, but not really at the same time. So that's all I got to say on the update. Long and short of it is, if you can help and if you can prevent not taking anybody to the ER, don't, because you may not be able to visit them, okay, number one. But just know that depending on where you're located, the hospital that's closest to you probably or may not be a COVID-19 hospital. I know that the one closest to us where I live is a COVID-19 hospital. That's all they take. Those are all the patients that they take for whatever reason. I know that in where I work, Harwood Heights, we have a COVID-19 testing facility just down the street, not very far. So I get to watch the National Guard roll through with their trucks every morning to help set that up. So again, let's keep washing our hands. Let's practice good hygiene. And I got some funny photographs on the post that I think will maybe make some light of the situation. And the first one I think is very funny. Here's a new Sriracha hand sanitizer. Not only will it kill germs, but it will stop you from touching your eyes, face, and other places a second time. I like that. I think it's pretty funny. And then the above one, there was a whole funny post that I found on different hilarious protective coatings. There are like two people dressed as knights in shining armor at the grocery store. Here's a woman who looks, who's got a bag over her head. I mean, this is I don't know. I just gotta laugh Gotta laugh. So enjoy those photos. Enjoy those photos. Okay. All right, we got a good show for you today. Unfortunately, it kind of centers around a lot of COVID and elevator-related posts and articles, and I encourage you to continue learning as much as you can. Listen to your governor's press releases every day. They're typically doing that. Tune into the White House briefing just to get as much information as you possibly can, because the reality is that you've got to call your governors on, and I'm not talking about a physical phone call. You've got to figure out if they got their stuff together. I mean, in terms of what they're doing, the steps they're taking. And unfortunately, there's so much that's not known that's very frustrating, even to them, that to get on, so you don't have to listen to the banter and the shit out of this. I was going to say something else, but in just so you can make your own educated conclusions on what's going on and this whole thing. Just do that. Listen to your governor's press release every day. It's about video. It's probably on YouTube or whatever. And then the White House briefing, which, is interesting in itself, but at least gives you some idea, whether or not you support the administration or not is kind of not the issue here. But just get a good idea for yourself what's being shared from those that are sharing it, so that you can be better educated and make the best conclusions on what's going on and how well things are moving and all that. So I'm going to do my best to try to make things better as best that I can. And excuse me. We'll see how that goes. But we're still just keep sanitizing, keep doing everything you possibly do to keep that virus at bay and away from you and your family, and be safe, okay? All right, we're going to get to the news next, and we'll have you out of here lickety-split. I don't know where that term came from, but I like to say it. All right, news for this week. I have no news intro anymore. I don't know. I will have to find that, okay? Yeah, I don't have that, so no fun news intro, but I will pull that up next week if I can find it. Okay, first news article of the show. Again, it was a bunch of stuff regarding questions and coronavirus. This is from NPR, and basically people writing in about, can sunlight kill the virus? How risky is an elevator ride? And again, this is kind of common sense, other than the UV, piece of this puzzle. If you scroll down, if I step into an elevator where an infected person has recently been, could I get the virus? And you know what? Anything's possible, I guess. You catch the flu too. So some pretty good, interesting information here. Although, again, information on this specific virus is limited. So it's not exactly conclusive information. Again, perhaps you live in a building with an elevator, you ride in one at work, or you use one at the grocery store with a full cart. Maybe you're facing an empty elevator and you're worried. Could a person with COVID-19 have just been in that space? Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun. Should you worry about the viral particles in the air? So Center for Disease Control and Prevention says current data suggests that the primary mode of transmission is through respiratory droplets from an infected person that can land in the mouth, noses, or eyes of people nearby, or possibly be inhaled into the lungs of those within close proximity. The virus is also believed to be spread by a contaminated surface and then touching your eyes, nose, or mouth. Okay, so social distancing is great. And also, making sure you wash everything and clean diligently. So it's easy. They go on further to talk about that the role of particles in the air of the coronavirus, they could be there, but airborne transmission from person to person over long distances from those viral particles in the air is very unlikely. Again, they don't know everything, but they don't have evidence to conclude that is actually happening or could happen. So reality is they just said, anything that's commonly touched, elevator buttons, you just have to wash your hands and make sure you're safe and stuff after that happens. The reality is that as hand sanitizer, I know some people have been installing, hand sanitizers in elevators or by the buttons or whatnot. The problem is that they are, you cannot get the refills for them, not yet. So the Purell stuff, we have them at our facility, and we have enough. We've had enough of the refills for quite some time, but you can't get them now. You just can't get them, and I don't know when they'll be available. But that is going to be a huge issue as businesses reopen and can't get that kind of stuff or equipment. And this is a world that we've come to with the craziness out there and the images. The main image for today's show kind of proves that, with the woman who's shopping in a cart and then, one of those mobile cart thingies, and then has a bag over her head. It's just fucking. I mean, it's freaky. It's kind of silly. But apparently, Walmart customer concerned with social distancing during the coronavirus pandemic, but not wearing a face mask, is accused of using pepper spray on other customers who are trying to board the same elevator. You know what? I mean, do you think it's going to stop at pepper spray? Honestly, do you think you're not going to read about shootings over something like this as well? I mean, people are crazy. There are crazy people out there, and it's crazy. So anyway. I just hope it doesn't get, we don't read a bunch about this kind of stuff. Okay, and if you thought it was just bad enough to be at home, can you imagine being stuck in in your apartment building with no elevator or an elevator outage at the New York City Housing Authority? Yeah, so things can always be worse. This is just an article that was posted, and just to kind of bring some attention to the fact that in housing authorities, the maintenance and repair is not always the best when it comes to reliability, mainly because funding is not there in most situations to replace and repair equipment. So, next news article: advice on how to live responsibly during this pandemic. And I wrote it as this, or I titled it in the show notes, but really BuzzFeed News has their title is "How to Plague. Can I share an elevator with my neighbor?" This is the rant that I shared this morning about that question. So great, we're going to ask this BuzzFeed News reporter if, based on her expertise of knowing the coronavirus, that if we can share an elevator with that. So thank you for sharing your expertise with us and letting us know that, be careful. It's awesome. Man, I got trucks driving down the street. I don't know if you can hear that. Big airplanes are landing. Man, pretty exciting. Oh, I can hear that. I do like the planes when they land. It's kind of exciting. Okay, next article. Here it comes. Social distancing in elevators. We knew this was coming, but you're going to start to see more of this. Attention Gmail users. Beechwood asks to limit number of people using elevators. 2 per trip. Please limit elevator occupancy to 2 people at a time. Stay healthy. I don't know where 2 people comes into play here. I mean, depending on the elevator, I don't think you can necessarily get 6 feet away. But, yeah. At some point, is it going to be okay to wear a mask in an elevator and then have 2 people? Or can you be in a crowded elevator, but everywhere's a mask? Or are you going to have little X's on the ground or on the floor? They're going to tell you where to stand. You get little containers or cubes you can walk into that'll suck the air out and then keep you safe. Anyway, you'll see more of this kind of thing happening. And again, I don't know where 2 people come from, that number, but somebody feels like they're an expert. So, okay, New York, the Gothamist blog or news source or blue source, what do you want to call it, is got an article asking epidemiologists, can I go outside or use an elevator? Should I wear a mask? Okay, great. What the oh, yeah. I'm going to close this one right now. Oh, gosh. The only thing that makes me smile is this picture of this woman. Okay. All right. And for those of you listening to the show, because the majority of people actually listen to the show on iTunes or download or whatnot, you got to go to elevatorradioshow.com and click on the show links and just look at the photo. Oh, can I go outside? Can I go to the bathroom? Can I put underwear on today? How about socks? Okay, BurnabyNow.com. Here's another piece. Opinion. Should I share my Burnaby elevator rides during a pandemic? Oh gosh, yeah. It seems like there's bigger things to worry about than this. But what do I know? Yeah, here's a person that was asked, "Would it be okay if I share the elevator with you?" And when he said no, he was called a jerk. And again, I understand. I understand people's fear, but it's only going to get worse, I guess. Unless we're all got duct tape on our mouths. I don't know. Will there be a day we have some filter system that wraps around our head? Maybe we'll all have space helmets on someday. I'm gonna look for one of those. Yeah. And speaking of which, just so everybody knows, our prize pack giveaway is going to be toilet paper. We're giving away toilet paper. We'll look for some other safety stuff we can give away as well, just for blanks and giggles, I guess I should say, or hits and giggles. Anyway, again, we're gonna make a little bit of light of the situation and see if we can't release something so that it's not so painful. Next news article, social distancing in elevators again. How the city says it's helping New Yorkers stay safe. And again, I feel for New York. I feel for New Jersey. I feel for any large area that is seen or is considered a hot spot. Chicago is one of those as well. And, by all means, I never want to see people get sick. I don't want to see people die. Social distancing, I think, is working. I'm not 100% sure. There's no really conclusive way of confirming that one way or another, but the reality is it makes sense, okay? So that makes sense. So I can do that, but at what cost? So, and only time will tell what cost. Next news article, we will get through the Chicago. You know what? And I just wanted to respond to this, chicagobusiness.com, and it's a good piece. I want to be optimistic. But I got to tell you, Korean Chicago business, not everybody's going to get through this. Not everybody is going to get through this. And I suspect there are going to be quite a few not affected or not infected, not affected or not infected, either or, by the coronavirus, are not going to make it through this. They are not going to make it through this. And I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer. I don't mean to do that. But at the same time, we got to be realistic about what we're facing here. And I'm not just talking about the coronavirus. I'm talking about the economy. So, the number of people that are unemployed. I mean, it's just crazy. Okay, next news article. Here's some lighter stuff, except for, no, actually, this is not light at all. This is the lightest piece of the article. SeekingAlpha.com, which I'm not sure what this is, has an interesting article about Otis spinoff, most profitable elevator company at the lowest valuation. I'm not a finance guy whatsoever, but I did find this article interesting. And if you get a pretty good idea of the level of experience or not education, but knowledge, I guess I should say, of those that comment on these posts. And I got to say that the person that wrote this article is pretty good, as well as those that commented and asked questions about, like, hey, where'd you come with this and that? And I think that's probably one of the best things about having pieces like this that you can comment or respond to, is giving the author of the article the ability to respond. And this guy did, or this woman did, whoever this person is. Let's see here. Value Vault. I don't know who this is. Somebody at this, financial firm or whatever it is shared that. So that's good information, because if you other than that, it just ends up looking like it's a piece that is just regurgitated and shared amongst any possible blogging platform that whoever wrote this can find. But interesting. Watch your kids. This is always important. I guarantee that if this woman could do it all over again, she probably would not be buried in her phone while her 3-year-old died in the title of this article notes as a freak escalator accident. It's not a freak escalator accident. The world is a dangerous place, and I don't mean escalators are dangerous, but there are things around in an airport that can definitely cause harm to anyone, kids especially, kids that are 4, 3, and 2. Where they were at an airport in Charlotte, North Carolina, on their way home from a trip to Florida, and she sat less than 15 feet away trying to arrange a ride. Her kids were playing in a little space between the escalator and the stairs, and basically got pulled up and over and fell one of the children to their death. So it's just, it's terrifying. And it's, again, it's unfortunately she's being charged with child abuse, which, you're talking about a mom who just lost a child, and now this. It's unbelievable. If something comes from this article, it's that people watch their kids and make sure their kids are as safe as possible. I mean, you can never be too safe. That's my opinion, but it's just terrible and a tragedy. And last news article, I try not to just share stuff that doesn't have some type of, well, as much as factual base, and I don't like saying things that I cannot back up with something that's, statistic. Well, people do this a lot. They'll share something with no kind of background or information because they heard it or they read it somewhere. And I talked about Governor Pritzker letting, people out of jail. And this is the article, the Telegraph, the Alton Telegraph, that confirms that. So read it. And again, my problem is that we have a hospital that a family member cannot go and visit their family member, yet we're letting prisoners out, 761 inmates. And honestly, I don't care if they're charged. I don't care if they were close to serving their time. There's still a process that goes through this. Yeah. So 761 inmates were let go. Charges included murder, forcible sexual assault, armed robbery, making heroin, aggravated domestic battery, aggravated vehicle hijacking of a handicapped person, and other violent crimes. I don't know. It just scratches my head. So anyway, long and short of it is that's pretty much the show today. Again, thank you for allowing me to talk to you and rant. I greatly appreciate it. It's greatly appreciated. And I continue to wish you and your family safe. Make sure you're keeping them as safe as possible. And make sure that, just keep sanitizing stuff and be diligent on that. This is the new norm to some extent, and we'll just keep plugging along. As far as my mom's concerned, our goal is to get her as healthy as possible so we can get her home and just care for her at home and try to get her strength back and do the best we possibly can. But she does not want to be there anymore, and it is heartbreaking to listen to your mom basically plead for you to come and pick her up and get her out of there, because it's just terrible. It's really, really hard, and I don't think any family member should have to be put in that kind of situation, especially when you have prisoners that have just been released that are running around, and it's just frustrating. So that's the world we live in today, or that's how we are being governed to some extent. So yeah. So again, listen to your governor. I listen to him every day. Listen to the White House briefing. I do it almost every day just to kind of stay up on what's going on, so I can share that with my team, my family, and try to be as positive as you possibly can. And remember that you are in control of your own destiny. As positive as that sounds, and as hard as that may be to actually complete, just know that you are your own. You're the own captain of your ship, and only you can make it go where you need to make it go. So hang in there. We'll be back next Wednesday, hopefully with some better news about my mom. And thanks again for tuning in today, okay? You take care. Be safe. Bye-bye.